take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that. Spitting slow, spitting fast, I could roast, I could gas. Think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past. And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you hide behind a fake exterior. Inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior. Get off of me, this ain't no humble brag. I want you to hear words, you can say them back. I want you to feel free from the chains at last, and to believe in what you got, it was built to last, yeah. Now that I've been put through hell, I never got anyone's help. I had to do it all myself. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
All right, y'all, we're here, we're live. You're watching Buster Unmasked, and you know where you can find us. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on the X, but the most important place you can find us, Genesis TV Network. 10 p.m. Central Time every single Thursday night. All you got to do is go to Genesis TV. You can get it on Roku, Fire Stick. They have a website. You can download the channel. 10 p.m. every single Thursday night, Genesis TV, 10 p.m. Central Time, Buster Unmasked. Catch it. And look, guys, you seen the teaser just played. September 21st, a matter of fact, Kick-Ass Wrestling returns to Memphis, Tennessee. Get ready. Blood, violence, chaos. You're going to see it all. Tonight, guys, tonight's a special show. Look, my guest tonight, he is a lifelong wrestling fan. He is a fellow podcaster, and he is the president of the Wrestling Society Network. Without any further ado, I bring to you Herman, Professor Bear Cade. Herman.
How you doing?
What's going on, my dude?
Man, just lovely. Everything going great.
Man, it's my pleasure to have you here, man. I've been waiting on this show. We've had it booked for a while. It's my pleasure, dude.
Thank you. Thank you a lot.
So look, man, I know you're on the podcast tour. You're out here promoting Professor Bear, the podcast, but you're also out here promoting the Wrestling Society Network. And I know that you got to be tired of answering the same old questions the same way, man.
Well, I can't lie, yeah. But the nice thing about it, though, it's freeing and getting to promote. And the more people see our channel, the better I feel. I mean, we're doing something that any true wrestling fan will love.
Right. So look, man, I know a little bit about you. I don't know a lot. I know your dad. Your dad was your bridge to kind of introduce you to pro wrestling, right?
Yes, definitely. My dad was a big wrestling fan, and he used to take me, my two brothers and sister. We all, like, every other Friday, Saturday, something like that, we would go to local wrestling. And if they didn't have wrestling that Saturday, he was in front of the TV at 6:05 Eastern every Saturday. Everybody knew from the whole family to the neighbors to my friends, do not come to our house at 6:05 because you make too much noise. My dad would kick you up out that house.
Man, I growed up the same way. It was my grandfather, dude. I'm from around the Memphis area, so every Saturday morning it was Memphis wrestling. Every Saturday morning, 11 o'clock to 12:30 back in the old days. And then, like you said, for us it was 5:05, 5:05 every evening. It was Georgia Championship Wrestling. And
Yes.
the hook to this is my grandfather was mostly blind. So he couldn't watch the show, but he'd get right up to the TV and listen to the whole shows, man. And same thing, nobody better say nothing. You sitting there, you watching, and you're quiet, man.
Oh yeah, man. And growing up on Georgia Championship Wrestling, it seemed like every big star came through there at one point or another. It's like
Right.
I remember, of course, Dusty Rhodes, Ole Anderson, Piper, the Road Warriors, just to name a few. It's just, oh man, that was like the best thing in the world for me as a kid.
Right, man. I was the same way. That's my childhood right there. You just described it, man. Loved. I don't even think I remember not. I think wrestling was probably my first love out of anything in the world. I think it was probably wrestling. But look, man, I know that you growed up and live around the Knoxville area, and you just kind of mentioned local shows. So why don't you talk to me about some of these local shows that you got to go see when you were young?
Oh man, we of course Continental Championship Wrestling was big in the area. Then they had a spin-off from them. I think it was Knoxville All-Star Wrestling. And man, we, like I said, we would just go. One of the memories, and it's funny because as a young guy, you don't remember everything, but my brother, he told me the story, and I kind of vaguely remember it. One time we went to the wrestling show, and a wrestler grabbed my brother, and he's like, "Hey, I want you to do something. If you do it, I'll give you an autograph." My brother's like, "Okay. I want you to take this." We sitting at ringside now.
Right.
Bro, the wrestler gave my brother a chain. And my brother's okay. So dad was there. So we all sitting at the thing, and the wrestler was fighting the guy, and he knocked the ref out. He slid out the ring. He's like, "Give it to me." My brother gave him that chain. He jumped back in the ring and beat the tar out of whoever he was beating. And when I say beating him, blood was everywhere. And we loved it.
Dude, did y'all get heat from it from the other fans? Did your brother get heat from it?
No, they were just too just shocked on how bad he was beating the hell out of them. It was amazing. And the autograph, he signed his shirt.
That's cool. And see, that's something that I think's missing, man, from a lot of wrestling now. That interaction with the fans, that real interaction like that, because I can guarantee you nobody told that dude to do that or nothing. That's something that the wrestler thought of, picked your brother out for whatever reason and thought, yeah, let's do this. And man, that's the kind of things that connect fans to wrestlers. That stuff right there.
Man, you are so right. I'll tell you another quick story that my wife, she wasn't really a big fan when we first met, and she knew I was into wrestling. So one day I decided she wanted to go to wrestling, and we missed the WWE came, but we didn't go to it for whatever reason. And it was a local wrestling I wanted to go to. It was I can't remember the name, but we went, And when I tell you we left, my wife, that's all she talked about. She enjoyed it so much, the interaction. One wrestler, they were fighting on the outside, and we're ringside. The guy dumped him over next to me, and he turned around. Well, he gets up, he does a springboard kick off the railing, stepped on my foot, and got it off. So afterwards, I saw him. I said, "Man, you all right? You stepped on my foot. You almost got a right hand." And the guy's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And you know, it was just fun. And it's just the interaction with, like you said, the fans that was just so well. And right now, she is waiting on the next time we're going. She loves local wrestling.
Man, I do too, man. It's used to back in the territory days, there was a local wrestling everywhere pretty much, I mean, there wasn't promotions like there are now, 300 everywhere in every place you go to every 5 miles, but there were quality promotions where guys were actually somewhat making a living by being wrestlers,
Yeah.
and so much better back then, man. And that brings me to something else. We kind of have something in common, man. I know you're 50, I'm 50, we're the same age, and man, I feel like we're coming from the same place on the kind of wrestling that we grew up on and that hooked us, man, because I mean, I've been hooked my whole life, man. Since I don't even remember not knowing about wrestling, dude. How about you?
Man, I'm the exact same way. As a matter of fact, I was such a big wrestling fan. I always bought the wrestling magazines.
Dude, in my closet in here, now they're in, the condition of them's terrible because as a young man and a kid, I constantly looked at them and read them over and over. But I bet you I probably got 500 magazines because my brother started collecting them probably from 1976 or 79 on up to the 90s, man.
Well, it's funny because I got from the 80s to 2000.
There it is, man.
And my biggest one I always love is Pro Wrestling Illustrated.
Me too, man. There used to be so many good ones. And here's the thing. That was social media before social media. If you wanted to learn about wrestling, and overall, a lot of it was a work, but there were certain snidbits in there of behind the scenes stuff that was true, but you didn't know what was what,
Yeah, definitely. I always tell people, I like with the whole territory system. I tell them now it's back. You have so many good territories. It's back, and they're in a better position because they have social media, and you can actually watch shows weekly from, if you like me living in Knoxville, I can find a wrestling organization who in California and they put on weekly. I can watch it and see development, and I love that.
Let me ask you this. Do you ever get wrestling overload now? Because I'm the same way, man. I turn on YouTube and, man, just all kind of, since I watch a lot of wrestling from everywhere pops up, man. And sometimes, man, I get a little wrestling overload sometimes almost.
Oh, yeah, I do. I had to take like I think the longest break I took from really paying attention is a week. But matter of fact, my wedding anniversary is next week.
Yeah, you better get that right.
No, I got it right. I definitely got that right. And I tell you, we went to the beach to get married, and right before we left, I was watching wrestling. Wrestling just consumes me. But like you, some days I get overloaded. I just have to stop, and it's like, okay, reset, reset. Okay, then go back into it.
Right. I don't think people realize, here's the thing. Wrestling consumes anybody who loves it. If you're a wrestler, it consumes every bit of your mental capacity. I don't care if you're out doing a shoot job or anything else. You're always thinking about wrestling the whole time. If you're a fan and you're a hardcore fan and you love pro wrestling, I feel like, especially now with social media, back in the day, you could, I mean, you had your days, Saturdays and later on Mondays, but Saturday was the wrestling day when I was real young.
Oh
And
yeah.
so you only got your wrestling fix on Saturdays unless you had the wrestling magazines and stuff. And but now with so much wrestling, wrestling consumes. Doing this podcast, man, all I ever think about is wrestling. Ever. And speaking of podcasts, now you got your own podcast. So talk to me a little bit about your podcast and how you got into podcasting, man.
Well, the podcast and it actually the podcast leads into our YouTube. I mean, our app. So I got started in 2021. The owner of Wrestling Society Network, his name is Brady Owens. Great guy, love him to death. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. But he started the Wrestling Society in 2018, and he was trying to do everything himself. And he quickly found out he couldn't, and got burnt out. So he took a break, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna get back into it, but I got to have a team. So he was putting ads out on Facebook for people who wanted to do podcasts. So I saw it, and I didn't take it seriously. I just saw it and thought, somebody just joking around or whatever. Just so happened to mention it to my wife. She was like, you need to do it. I'm like, baby, who's gonna want to listen to me talk about wrestling? I ain't never wrestled in my life. Yeah, I have a lot of knowledge, but I don't want to be insulting to the wrestling business. She's like, please, you would debate with anybody. If God came down, you would tell him, Lord, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but what ABC? You would debate with the Lord. And I started laughing and like, yeah, she's kind of right. So I went, did my little, I think it was like a 5-minute promo I had to do, sent it off to him. And I was surprised within an hour, he reached out to me. And we got to talking, and he was like, man, yeah, I definitely want you. So then we had a team of 4 people. No, 5. We started 5. 1 dropped out, and it was 4 of us. Then one he couldn't be in it as serious, but he's part of the group. So it was just the 3 of us. We did podcasts. Then one day we sitting around, was like, hey, you seen any of the TV on YouTube, seeing some of these 2K promotions? Like, man, what would we do if we had our own promotion? Hey, let's just do it on 2K. So we started building, and if you're going to start a promotion, what do you have to do first? You got to come out with a big show to get people hooked. Right. So we did that. None of us ever did commentary before. So we doing that. We punchlining it. I say something, stop. Then he'll say something, stop. And that's how we did it. So we didn't want to sound terrible or anything. Took us over a month to get it done. So we put it out, and shockingly to us, we had over 200 views on it. It was like, wow, with no real promotion. Like, okay. So we cranking it up, and it's like, that's a good thing. Then we got to thinking about other stuff, and hey, let's get a website. We're going to build a website strictly for wrestling, and we're going to let different companies, different promotions, different people get on that website. So we started that, and out the blue, Brady came up with the great idea of, hey, let's do an app. We got all this content. Let's do an app. It's like, okay. So working again, he's like, hey, I want you to go try to get promotions for the app. I'm like, man, they're going to turn us down. Shocked to my surprise, we got a bunch of different promotions. And before we knew it, man, we put the app out like late February, early March. Man, we were shocked on how many people have watched it up to this point.
Right, right. I've checked it out, man. It's cool. It's really cool. And it's there's a lot of people are starting their own streaming channels and stuff like that, their own streaming apps. But this one is strictly all pro wrestling based content, right?
Yeah, everything is pro wrestling. We actually have some stuff that's not pro wrestling that we're going to put on there just for people, like for a family. You know,
Right.
if you let your kid watch it and you gonna watch it, well, we have a few little things that may catch your interest. So, but the majority is wrestling based. I mean, we got comedians that tell wrestling jokes. We got other content creators, other podcasts on there.
Right.
We just want to give people different wrestling things. We got independent promotions. We got a GCW. We have oh man, this I'm running blank in my mind, but we have about 3 different promotions. They're really good. And you will see stars that you wouldn't think would be in these promotions. We got a video of Dusty Road with Cody and Dustin together.
Wow.
We just have so many different things. We got we have the documentaries on different wrestlers, different eras. We got biographies of different wrestlers. We, like I said, if it's wrestling, we're gonna look at it. If we think it's good, we're gonna put it on there just to give fans some place for different content of wrestling.
Right. And me and you were kind of chatting right before we went on the air. And, you know, just like social media, just like YouTube, just like anything else, when you start an app like that, it's all about content. The more content you have, the better opportunity, the more opportunity you have to draw more eyes to your product. And I love the idea of adding some different stuff too, because, I mean, here's the thing. When you start your own channel like that, a lot of times if you've got other things, whether it's Saturday morning cartoons or whether it's old TV shows or old movies, that might draw eyes that wouldn't normally just come to this channel. It might get them there, and then if they check out the wrestling, might make them stay there.
Exactly. I mean, look, we have, like I said, we got 2K promotions. We got reviews of wrestling video games. We actually got a wrestling figure promotions. And I'll be straight honest with you. I was looking at one of them. I was just sitting around and I looked, and for an hour, but I didn't even realize an hour had went by. I had got hooked into the promotion. I'm like,
Right.
wow, I'm like, man, I helped pick this out, but wow. So it's so much different things to look at and review. And here's 2 of the best things about it. We only have 30% of what we have on there. We have tons more. And it's a free app. I mean, you got wrestling and free. How in the world can you beat that?
Right, right. And like you said, man, it's you gotta I fully see when you start something like this, I fully see there's wrestling companies, podcasters, there's all these different things involving wrestling that these people are looking for outlets like this to take their content to and maybe help take it to the next level. Because look, there's so many wrestling podcasts out here. I mean, they're a dime a dozen. That's just the honest truth. But hooking up with something like the Wrestling Society Network gives these people an opportunity to take their shows or whatever they have to the next level, maybe draw more fans in that see it here. It's a good thing, man. It's a real good thing, man. And like you said earlier, you were hooked. That is your best judgment of your content. If it gets you and an hour passes by,
I dislike Hulk Hogan, but maybe I see a podcast where they convince me to give Hulk Hogan a chance. And I love that. It just like where it seems like everybody's coming tribalistic now about wrestling. Oh, if you like WWE, then you can't like AEW. If you like AEW, you can't like Impact. All that. And it's like, man, this is wrestling. Enjoy it. If you don't like that show, don't watch it. And to be honest with you too, I've been blessed on everybody's show that I've been on has been super nice, super cool. And like I'd say it on yours, I'm gonna say it on everybody's. Man, we are a community. Let's keep that community safe, because just as easy as it's booming now, we could go back to the dark days where you can't find anything.
Right.
So enjoy it and just have fun. It gets you out of your life for 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever. Protect it. Enjoy yourself.
Right. Here's my thing. I had this same conversation, not quite the same, but you talk about tribalistic. I had on Facebook, a friend of mine, actually, we had a little debate a week or two ago, mainly just about wrestling products. And here's the thing. Look, only kind of wrestling I discriminate against is bad wrestling. I don't care whether you're WWE, AEW, New Japan, or any of these 100,000 indie companies around. If you're wrestling and your product's good, I'm all for it. I don't care whether it's more sports entertainment based or whether it's more wrestling based, athletic based. The only kind of wrestling I got a problem with is shit wrestling, and that's just the simple fact of it. That's the way I look at it, But at the same time, you've got to look at these products and be truthful whether these products are good, because sometimes you have good companies that have a streak of bad stuff, bad storylines, bad angles, bad whatever. But you gotta. That's the beauty of the podcast. Like you said, your wife said you debate with anybody. I mean, that's what most podcasts kind of are, is an open debate, of like you said, different opinions from different people about different wrestling, different wrestlers, whatever.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing with me is, even if I don't like your opinion, I'm man enough to say, okay, we're not going to agree, but thank you for your opinion.
Right.
And keep moving. That's what any kind of sports and stuff, people are not going to be on the same page, but you're in the sport. So I'm not going to be mad because I'm a Ric Flair fan and you're a Hogan fan. Oh, what does it hurt me that you like Hogan?
Right.
It don't. and again, this is all wrestling, so we can have fun. And some of the best fun are the debates, because for a while, the top four, the Mount Rushmore of wrestling was going around. Of course, everybody's going to have their opinion. And not every opinion is right. Not every opinion is wrong. It's an opinion. So let it go and just have fun with it.
Right. I'm with you on that. So look, let me take you back a little bit. Let's kind of backtrack. You kind of fell into this podcast thing. I kind of was the same way. How was your first podcast? Was you nervous about it to actually do it? How was the very first time you actually got on and did your podcast?
Yeah, I was super nervous. Oh man. My
thing was man, some of the first podcasts I did, man, you go back and listen to them, there's more uhs in between statements and sentences than there are anything else, man.
Oh yeah, and then I'm sitting there trying to think. I get a question asked, and I'm running in my mind, and then I'm speaking out. No, I'm thinking this. Why did that word come out?
Right.
So it was. I think it's terrible. Even to today, I hate hearing my voice. It takes a lot for me to watch any product that I do. I'm sitting there like, oh God, that voice. Oh God, I'm terrible. And then you have other people. People don't even know me. Like, man, we enjoy you. Man, you're good. And I'm like, what kind of drugs are you on?
Right. Man, anytime I hear it, I'm kind of getting numb to it now, I guess. It's not sounding as bad as it used to, but man, even as a wrestler, when I'd have to do a promo, then I could come back and watch it or something, and I'm like, I always thought, man, I sound so fucking country, man. I'm as country as can be, man. I was the same way, man. I hate hearing my voice. Like I said, I'm kind of getting numb to it. So how did your first podcast actually go? Did you have a guest, or did you just go on and talk about something, or what?
I think the first time, matter of fact, the first podcast we reviewed AEW, what was it? The Forbidden Door. We reviewed that and was super happy that I had something that I could focus on.
Right.
And we sometimes I go back and listen to it now, and I'm like, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, but I definitely can get better, and I can see where I've gotten better. And like I said, I'm kind of enjoying it. A lot of times I tell myself, no, I don't enjoy it, but really I do.
Right. For me, it's kind of like wrestling. Don Bass, I don't know if you know who that is.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, when I first broke into business, right after getting training, me and my brother were kind of sent down to Don Bass to kind of him to break us in around the territory and stuff. And one of the first things, because when I first started wrestling, I had a big issue. I called it stage fright. I mean, I don't know no other way to explain it. Stage fright. You know, the closer the match gets, the closer the time comes, man. I'll be like, man, I don't even want to go out there, you know. And it took me a while to overcome that. But one thing that helped me was, you know, I asked him what I said, does the nerves ever leave? And his words to me and my brother were, no. He said, I still get butterflies to this day. He said, if you ever lose the nerves and the butterflies, you might as well get out and find you something else to do, because you do not care about it the way you should anymore. Dude, yeah. I was nervous before we popped on, and people don't realize it, but we had a little time discrepancy. I was popping on at 10 till 6, I guess it was, trying to kind of get set up, and then you popped on. and it never hit me that we're an hour difference between us, which I had a guest about 2 weeks ago I had the same issue with, so I'm going to have to start keeping up on that. But, man, the nerves, dude, I get them every time. And the thing about that I found, it's just like wrestling. The more comfortable you get, the simpler it gets, the easier it gets. Like you said, the first time you're sitting there thinking, you're trying to think and talk, and I kind of figured out, man, just react. If someone says something, usually your natural reaction is the best one, because that's what you really feel. That's your gut feeling.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you. It's one. I think another thing where I became more comfortable about things is hearing feedback. And some of the best feedback are people who don't know you.
Right.
Because again, my wife loved her to death, and she would tell me the truth, but it just doesn't hit the same as when somebody who don't know me says something.
Right.
And I try to take pointers, but like you said, the easier it's become for me. I still get nervous, but it's easier for me. And one of the biggest things for me, because I never was really in the wrestling business. I was never a ref. I never a wrestler. I wasn't a promoter. I did nothing. And my thing is, I do not want to get out here and be disrespectful to the men, women who bust their ass all this time in a sport I love. I do not want to disappoint them.
Right.
So I always I get into a debating stuff, or I don't like something. One of the first things I always say is, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but this is my opinion.
Right, and everybody's got a right to their opinion. I mean, here's the thing: no matter opinion, you ain't really right or wrong until there's facts to back up either side. You know what I mean?
Right.
Once you have numbers and facts to say, hey, I mean, the numbers don't lie, the facts don't lie. Then an opinion, then you know who was wrong or right. But at the end of the day, I mean, everybody says it. Wrestling's so subjective. Everybody has their things they like, the things they don't like, the things they like more than other things, the wrestlers they like, the wrestlers they don't like. Like you said, the companies they don't like. Look, I growed up watching all wrestling. I was lucky enough where I lived, I could get Memphis wrestling, Jerry Lawler's wrestling. I could get world class championship wrestling out of Texas. When Bill Watts was running UWF, even before it was UWF Mid-South, we could get a Little Rock station that played it. Obviously, the Superstation TVS. Always watch that, man. And Continental, you mentioned Continental earlier. Now, Continental was run by the Fullers.
Yep.
So, look, let's go there for a minute. Take me back to when you were young, going to these local shows and stuff. Who were some of your most favorite wrestlers, dude?
Oh, wow. Of course, the Armstrongs, Bullet Bob, and all his kids. I was probably out of Bullet was the first, my favorite. But as far as the kid, Brad Armstrong, man, he was so underrated as a wrestler.
Right.
He should have gotten so much more than he got. I loved him. Like you mentioned, the Fullers. I said Ron and Don Bass. I mean, Ron and Don Wright. Excuse me.
Right.
The Wright brothers. Wildcat Wendell Cooley, Dr. Tom Pritchard. All that was Continental. I sit and think of course, I was a Dusty Rhodes fan. Then Magnum TA. Matter of fact, Magnum TA made me want to start wrestling, and I didn't even care about the world title. I wanted to be the United States champion. That belt, and you can't see it, but I have it on my wall. I love that belt.
So I'm glad you said that. Let's talk about that, man. In my eyes, man, a lot of them older belts are still to this day the coolest belts, man. What's your thoughts on a lot of these new belts? Like WWE, it seems like every time you turn around, they've done created another version of one of their belts, a new version. AEW, they just create belts anytime they want to for anything. But very few of them really jump out to me like these old belts used to, man. What's your thoughts on these new wrestling belts?
Yeah, WWE, I really dislike their style of belts. I understand the logo part of it, but it's tiring. Now they're starting to get a little away from it and diverse. Like when they came back out with the World Championship, I just immediately hated because it was a ripoff of the big gold belt.
And dude, I was the same way. And here's my thoughts. Why don't you just remake the big gold belt and put the WWs in the center of it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't understand some of that either. I'm with you on that one, man. Some of these belts are just, and obviously they don't like them. They try them for a while and they don't seem to fit, so they constantly make new versions to try to get something that works. I think if they want something that really works, go back to one of the original WWF world titles or go back to the big gold belt.
Yeah.
And figure out how to get it remade where it looks the same and now just has the WW, the logos in it, man. It's
I was gonna say, I tell you, the belts I do like is the Ring of Honor titles. I One of the best Ring of Honor titles are the tag team titles, where they got the Briscoes.
Right.
It's cemented on them. I love that. I'm so appreciative that Tony Khan has that love and history that he did that. And I would tell you too, a lot of people dislike Tony Khan. A lot of people don't like the NWA owner,
Billy Corgan.
Billy Corgan. I love them for these two reasons. One, they are wrestling traditionalists. They know history and they do their best not to be disrespectful to the business. And I love that. It's they don't get enough credit for that.
Well, speaking, go ahead.
No. I was just saying they really just don't get enough credit, and they do their best to educate these fans now of what it was back in our days. And I love that.
Well, let me ask you this. Speaking of the belts and stuff, how do you feel about, because used to these belts had a lot of meaning, but there wasn't two world tag team champions, there wasn't two world champions, there wasn't all these different versions of the same thing. What's your thoughts on that? Because here, for me, there's so many of them now that they make each one of them less important. That's my point of view.
And it's funny that you say that, because I had a conversation with somebody, and that's like, okay, how do you have a world championship belt when you don't even leave your state?
Dude, man, I have, look, where I'm at, we've got around the Memphis area, I swear, in probably a 200-mile radius around Memphis, there's probably 100 promotions. And out of them 100 promotions, several of them want to have they run one town one night a week, and they want to have a world champion. I'm like, here's the thing. You're insulting the fans. You're insulting your product. To me, have a company champion. And then here's the thing. If a lot of these companies would get together and create a one guy who was kind of the champion, the traveling champion to go around. So then each one of these heavyweight champions in these companies, once you got that belt, it puts you in line for a shot at this, maybe a world version, even though you don't leave the country. But if you were over 5, 10, 15 promotions, one belt, and they all looked at it like, here's our heavyweight belts, but here's the belt that means you're the top of all these companies, then it would mean something. It would make more sense, because look, the worst thing you can do to wrestling fans is insult them.
Yeah, you're definitely right. And it's funny, Billy Corgan, he's going back to getting territories, and I appreciate that. And they have their company champion, and they have the NWA world champion. He travels through, he'll defend and whatever, and I love that. It makes more sense creatively.
Right.
It's not an insult to me. And I know a couple of other promotions out there that working together, and they have it's not the world champion, but I can't remember what it's called, but it's the top title. And
right.
Then each promotion has the company title, and they have ranking systems, and you have to be a part of that ranking system before you get a shot at that the top title. You have to have that championship. It makes sense to me. It's so much more of a feel of wrestling. And I get it. A lot of this is sports entertainment. Sometimes I'm in the mood for that. But like, we were raised on wrestling. And it's so much stuff out there that people just don't know or don't understand. And I guess that's where, when I did my little, like, I have a show called Professor Bear's Wrestling Class. I go back and give history on different promotions, different things. Like I broke down the Crockett Cup. I broke that down. I talked about how the AWA almost was the biggest organization in the US.
Right.
How Hulk Hogan was there and he left. How Vince McMahon dried up all the territories. And I love giving that information for people to learn and like, oh, I didn't know that. Or like Hogan when he turned in the NWO, people are like, oh my God, it's the first time Hogan was a hit. No.
Yeah.
No. You're just used to that vitamin C prayer. I was like, before that, he was a heel. He was a heel in AWA. And there's so much history out there that people don't know. And like I said, I get caught up in a story that might hit my head. Like WWE like to claim they were the first one with the pay-per-view.
Right.
And it wasn't them.
Right.
The first recognized pay-per-view was Jim Crockett Promotion.
Right.
And I love telling people that, and they kind of look at me like, no. I'm like, yeah, I could go to this date, Google, look.
Well, wrestling back in them days was a whole lot simpler, a whole lot straightforward. There wasn't so much confusion, man. In all the wrestling today, with so many titles, so many champions of every level, every kind, it confuses the fans. And here's the thing, at the end of the day, I feel like in wrestling, period, if you confuse them, you lose them. So once you've lost them, you kind of, you muddy the water so much that they don't care about none of the titles. It's just, it literally becomes just a prop instead of a trophy that this guy had to, used to. You knew Ric Flair was the NWA World Champion. If it was the Hogan era, he was the WWF World Champion. Japan had their own world champions, but all these companies were big enough to have world champions.
Right.
And it was just straightforward. You knew who each guy was. Now, you got 30 titles in every company pretty much. And that brings me to another thing. What's your thoughts about the old school of if you won the U.S. belt that you knew you was going to get a shot at the NWA title, or if you won the Intercontinental belt, that was always the step before. When you got there, then you knew somewhere you were at least going to get a shot at this world title. What's your thoughts on it not quite being that way anymore, man? What do you like best?
I tell you, just that old school in me. Again, like you said, it could be. We broke them down titles to props. You can actually build people, build the titles, help build your superstars, make them ready to carry the main title. So yeah, like with the NWA, you always knew the U.S. champion was going to get his shot at the world title.
And it was a tester. It was a tester for the company to test the wrestler and see how he performed, see how people took to him, see if he drew people with that title. And that's a good tester right there of, hey, he's done good with this. He's drawing money with it. Maybe give him a shot with this belt here. At least it was a clear line of, you get here, you're at least going to get this shot. And the fans understood that. It gave it more meaning, man. I feel like that's the one thing we've lost in wrestling more than anything else. One thing, nobody wants to take the time to build anything, like you said. Everybody wants instant gratification. They want to start something at the top of the show and blow it off at the end of the show when, man, done right, some of these things could have lasted 3-6 months. Who knows how long they could have went and been huge. I mean, the WWF, WWE, the thing they did with Cody is probably the most gleaming modern example of, if you have patience with something. They could have put the belt on Cody last year before his last, would have got a big pop. But man, by not doing that, it built up in more intrigue, more drama. Saving it for this year, boom, it was so much bigger. It legitimately helped make it probably the biggest WrestleMania ever. I don't know about ticket sales or none of that, but just in people's minds, it was huge. Roman's had this long title reign that nobody's had in forever. And finally, Cody finishes that story, or at least finishes that part of it. That's one thing that's missing in all of wrestling. Too much instant gratification, man. Sometimes if they take these things and plan them out and give them time to grow, and the thing about wrestling, you plant seeds in fans' heads, and you don't have to tell them the answers. You let their mind work and go where they want to with it, and then you do what you're going to do. You know.
Another prime example is Gunther. Gunther with that long Intercontinental title run. It made, now you legitimately want to see Gunther go after the world title, because as well as he was a great Intercontinental champion, he built that title. Like when he lost to Sami Zayn, Sami was already like here, but to beat Gunther brought him higher. It made that title mean more. Now I want that title because that guy beat the big guy. Now Gunther, he don't have the Intercontinental title weighing him down. Hey, he might go for the world title, and I believe he could hold the world title. Like you said, build that seed. That's one thing I give Triple H so much credit on, that he is a wrestling traditionalist. He knows history, and he tries to go to bring a lot of history into the business, even though it's changing. And that's a good thing. We need change, but you always want to keep certain aspects alive. I think a lot of people get this fact a little messed up. They don't want change. They want it the same, but you have to change in order to go to the next level.
Right. And it's simple in wrestling. A build-up done right, the bigger the build-up, the bigger the blow-off, the bigger the pop in the end. I mean, it's really not that complicated a lot of times, and that's something else that I feel like bookers do now, wrestlers do in their matches. Sometimes, most of the time in pro wrestling, the simplest way is always the best way, because you overthink things too much, and then you start overcomplicating things, and once again you could lose a lot of these fans who were with you, where wrestling's about, you got something I want, you're mad at me for something, I'm mad at you for something. There's always some kind of issue of why we're doing it. If we ain't got a personal issue, then that's where the belts come in. I want to be the champion. That's the goal. I made it to the U.S. title. I'm ready for the world title. I want my shot. And I just feel like a lot of times in today's wrestling, a lot of things are way overcomplicated, where if they'd have kept it simple, keep it simple, the fans can understand it. If you confuse them, you lose them, is what it boils down to.
And one of the prime examples with that is the women division. The women do not, where they are starting to get more storylines. It bothers me deep down in my soul how bad they crap on the women division, because if they ain't over the world title, then it's over something stupid like, oh, you stole my makeup. You know how insulting that is, not just for them women, but for the fans. Come on, you can come up with something better than that. Put some energy into it. It's like, and another thing that I really, really hate about what they do with women titles, it's always just the world title with women.
Right.
Look, come on. You got to build with them too. People will get invested. Give them a mid-card title to go after, to help. And it's just like, this is silly to me. Just like again, I go back to Ring of Honor. As much as everybody talk about Ring of Honor, they have did something so great. Athena has been their champion for over a year. She's defeated everybody. Anybody they put against her, she's defeated. So now you got all these different women who can't beat her. Okay, we're trying to get back to get the shot, but we need something else. And they introduced a women's TV champion. And I was like, great. Now you got something else. You can have that title switch 7, 8 times. That'd be fine.
Right.
Because it gives more build. And once you get out of that, maybe you're ready to finally defeat Athena. But again, I'm a real fan of stop treating women like we're in the 1920s. Have respect for them and give them meaningful storylines.
And that's the key word right there. Look, if you're going to be a key player in the wrestling business, no matter what company you're with or whatever, back in the day, only the job boys didn't have no angles or storylines. Everybody else, even if the Road Warriors are just beating up a couple of job boys, they still had this angle over here that ass kicking that you're seeing right there had something to do with. That's something else too, man. At the heart, and look, I love good wrestling matches. I love them. But at the end of the day, it's the stories, it's the characters, it's the personas that fans attach to and get an emotional attachment with. And you can have all the greatest 10-star matches you want, but if the fans don't really emotionally connect with one of the guys in the match or both of them, it's not really pro wrestling. It's just a match. It's a killer match, but if nobody cares, it don't mean nothing.
Exactly. And it's one of the things too that I like is, like you said, make stories, make me want to be invested. And I think of myself as a smart wrestling fan. But when you do something to fool me, I'm very happy because it makes me have to, oh man, they sucked me in and went this way. I didn't see it coming. I love to get fooled. What like I watched WWE's pay-per-view. I was so bored because I knew everything that was going to happen, except for the bloodline. That caught me off guard. I was like, oh, wow. Wow. Yes, that was smart. It makes me more want to invest in what's going to happen Friday on SmackDown because of the bloodline. Right. Like you said, it's intriguing. It just hooked me. Where I was getting tired of it, they were able to swerve me and get me back caring about it.
And that's the thing. Here's the thing about wrestling fans, and we're all the same. I'm the same. To really swerve wrestling fans good, you have to let them kind of predict a few things. Let them be right about this, and this. And when you get them on that road and they're not even thinking going left, boom, that's when you go left and that's when you get them. Back in 2006 or 7, 6 and 7, I ran my own show for a little while. And the one thing, even when I was a wrestler putting my matches together, if I was booking, I always booked from an aspect of what's going to pop me. What's going to, look, here's the way just like you said, I felt like if I can come up with something that if I was sitting out in the audience and I'm like, oh shit, then the average fan it's going to work on.
Exactly.
Whether you're booking the company or whether even your wrestling matches, I always thought, well, what if I was sitting out there, what would I really get off on? What would really make me like, oh shit, look at that? And that's kind of that's where everybody needs to come from. I feel when it's either booking or even wrestlers putting their matches together, put yourself in the fan seat. That's it. A lot of times, guys, now, a lot of companies, especially around where I'm at, they book for the boys in the back, or the smart internet fans. That's not just a big company thing. That's all over the wrestling business, from what I can tell. And quit booking for yourself and the boys. Book for them people that's buying tickets and sitting in the crowd, because them's the guys that's making you get whatever you're getting paid. Without them there, you ain't getting no money. I don't care whether it's $5 or $500. If there ain't no asses in those seats, nobody buying tickets, There ain't no show. There ain't no use doing it, and you ain't getting paid to do this.
Yeah, you're 100% right. It's the fans, and with fans too. I always say this: as us fans, we need to be respectful to wrestlers too. This is another thing that bugs me. There's not too much kayfabe anymore. You can go on somewhere, you can find out all the information about people. Then and I'm like, man, I need a little mystery. I don't need to know what your favorite food is, and you hang out. Look, you and him are best friends, but supposed to be in a blood feud.
Right.
Got family pictures of y'all taking vacation. No, I don't need none of that.
Dude, I think those days are just so far gone. That's the double-edged sword of the internet, man. I remember back in like 1992 or 3 when the internet was really in its infancy, like it nowhere near what it is now. There was only a couple of wrestling companies that had little, and they wasn't even. I don't even call them chat rooms. They were just websites for the company, and people would, you could get on and comment and talk and stuff. But man, the internet has. Here's the thing: if you could use it for good all the time, it's an awesome tool. But man, so many people get on the internet and use it for evil. That's the best way I could do it. I mean, and like you said, there's no mystery about any wrestling no more, and that hurts pro wrestling. Now we're more like a theater movie in a sense that. Here's the thing: people always use the word fake with wrestling, and my analogy is, well, if you go into the theater and you watch a movie and that movie does what it's supposed to, you're not sitting there thinking this is fake the whole time. If it sucks you in and it does what it's supposed to do, then for that 2-3 hours, whatever, you're in that world. Now, when you know it's not real, but you're in that world. Same thing with wrestling, man. You've got to be able to, for one thing, wrestlers, companies, talent, they have to be able to suck these fans in and attach to their emotions. It ain't just about getting pops, because you can get fans to pop over anything. It's the fans that cry when you get beat, or that want to kill the heel when the heel's beating you down. That's the emotion you want to tap into, because once you do that, you can pretty much do anything you want from that point on. Once them fans connect with you, you've got them. They're going to be with you. Whether you're a bad guy or a good guy, they're still going to want to see you and support you once you create that emotional attachment. And I feel like that's something that I feel like a lot of wrestling now is put together on a move set basis. Like, we're going to go out here and do these moves to get these pops, instead of going out here and trying to tap into these fans' emotion. Here's the thing: you might not tap into all of them at once, but if you get 1 or 2 in that audience and you can tap into them, then a lot of times the other fans see that emotion from that fan, and it starts winding them up, and then they get into the emotion. Wrestling's not about matches. It's not about none of that. It's about emotion. Tap it into human emotion, because that's all wrestling really is. It's 3 o'clock high. That's all it is. It's, let's start a fight in the morning that don't happen. By lunchtime at school, it's built up to this thing. By 3 o'clock, we done set the time. We're going to meet after school. And time 3 o'clock gets here, the 2 dudes in the fight probably don't even want to fight, but there's 300 kids sitting outside waiting on this thing.
Yeah.
That's wrestling. That's what it's all about right there. It's that simple. Human emotion. We all have the same natural basic instincts. All of us. It's just in us, man. And I don't know, man. A lot of times I feel like a lot of people think I might be talking down on wrestling. I'm really not. I just want to see wrestling that I can believe in. I want to believe.
I laugh a lot of times when I hear people talk about Jim Cornette and how he's just so old school. He hates everything, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, no, Jim has so many good points. I just think a lot of times his emotions get him, and he'll run wild and lose the point he was
Right.
trying to make. And a matter of fact, I'll tell you a quick Jim Cornette story. I was I think it was around 2006, 7, something like that. And it was the NWA wrestling convention. And me and like 5 friends went over to Charlotte. And we had the Friday until Sunday. Boy, we were all happy and stuff. And I saw Jim Cornette. You remember he used to have Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
Right.
And his base here in Knoxville. Well, they had just shut down, and I think it was it was Landale. Terry Landale had a show. No, it wasn't Terry, because Jim Cornette hated Terry, but it was somebody. And he was here in Knoxville, and I saw him and got to speak to him. So I'm hype about that. So we get down to the convention that Saturday. They had all the wrestlers on stage, and we walked by, got autographs, got to speak with them. So it was Jim Cornette, Beautiful Bobby, and Dennis. It was and Dennis. So the way they were sitting, it was Jim, Dennis, and Bobby. So I walk up to Jim. I was like, hey, I see you follow me from Knoxville. Laughed or whatever. He signed my autograph. We go next. I go to Dennis. Hey, man, I really loved y'all. I love hating y'all. That's what, because I hated your guts. But I understand now. I love to hate y'all. Y'all did great. Thank you. So we'll move down to Bobby. I was like, man, y'all were just great. Bobby's like, well, thank you. And I appreciate it. So I took 3 steps, and I turned around, and my face like this, like, holy shit, you speak. Jim Cornette was drinking a Coke, spit that thing all over the place laughing. So he gave me a real, like, dirty look. And it's like, okay, man, it was a joke. You know, you didn't do too many promos, so, you know.
Right.
So I looked at him. He looking at me like, if it wasn't so many people, I'd get up and slap hell out of you. So, okay. The next day, me and my buddy walking around trying to find the ATM so I could get some money. Walking around just looking like, man, this is ridiculous. You think they have ATM somewhere close. All of a sudden, you know how you have that feeling that you know somebody close to you, but
right.
I had that feeling. I just happened to turn around. It was Bobby. The look on his face, and it froze me. Now you have to understand, I'm 6'4". I've been about 300 pounds all my life, so I'm a big guy.
Right.
But the look Bobby had on his face scared the living hell out of me. I thought he was gonna beat the hell out of me. He looked at me and said, now what you got to say? I was like, man, it was a joke. It was a joke. He said, you know what? This is to start smiling. Oh, I grabbed my heart. He hugged me.
I was just going to say, truthfully, Bobby's one of the nicest dudes ever in the wrestling business, man.
That's the thing that got me, because I was like, I've always heard how nice he is. So see that mean look on his face, and it was like, this dude's serious. Me and my buddy might have to get beat up by him.
You might get that Alabama jam.
I already knew that I was not going to be able to take him because he wrestled. So he knows how to defend himself and how to fight. But I'm like, man, I don't know what we're going to do, but I know if I throw a punch, my buddy going to throw a punch, and he going to just beat the hell out of both of us. But he hugged us. One of the nicest people I ever met in the wrestling business.
Yeah, man. So let me ask you this. Let's go back a little bit. We mentioned him a couple times. You mentioned him earlier, Ric Flair. I'm sure you've seen the recent deal with him at the pizza place.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts, man?
My thought is just Ric Flair. Flair don't turn off for anybody. I attribute to it like this, the same way I say about my mother. My mom does certain things, and ever since I was little, I can remember her doing it. So she's 82. She's 82. And me and my brother were talking about it. I'm like, man, come on now. She's been doing this all her life. Why in the
Right.
world do we think she's gonna stop? We got to approach her differently. So with Ric Flair, he's always been Ric Flair.
Right.
He's drinking. He drinks all the time. His metabolism. He can't handle drinking like he did when he was younger. So he's drunk.
Right. I feel like he's like a wino. He can probably wake up in the morning and take 2 sips and be right lit up the whole day after that, man. He ain't got to drink I mean, and he is Flair, man, but that's why people loved him and still love him to this day, is because he is what he was, man. He is what you seen. So,
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, the same thing with Cornette. I mean, he's pretty much the dude you seen on TV. You know, he just is. And the thing about Cornette, man, he gets a lot of heat and a lot of flack. But if you do away with all the bullshit, this dude knows the wrestling business. He knows how to do it. He knows how to make it work. He knows what to do, what not to do. And I don't think he gets enough credit. I think all the bullshit around him kind of puts a little pig pen cloud around him. But honestly, if you would pull all that, look, here's the thing. If I had a few $1 million and I was going to start a wrestling company, the first guy I would go to would be Jim Cornette, and all I would want him to do was oversee the product, and what before anything went out on TV, it had to go through Cornette. Simple as that. I mean, I don't agree with all of his politics and all of his other things, but the fact of the matter is, he is one of the smartest dudes about the wrestling business. He knows stuff that guys don't even think about anymore. And if you don't start listening to those kind of guys, all those things are eventually going to die off when everybody ages out and dies.
Oh yeah. And it's funny with me telling you that story. I got to meet him again. It was probably like 2016, something like that. And Jeff Jarrett was running the Global at the time, and they had came up to Sevierville in a baseball stadium. So I actually talked to Dr. Tom Pritchard a week before that, and he was such a great guy. He gave me 2 tickets for me to go. So we went up there, me and my ex-wife, and Jim Cornette was there. And I walk up to him to speak to him, and I was like, hey, man, Jim. I said, man, we met before. I said, you probably can't remember. You know, you meet thousands on millions and millions of fans. You know, all those look alike to you. He said, no, I remember you. I'm like, no, you don't. Stop bullshitting with me. He told me the story about Bobby. Oh, I fell out laughing. I'm like, I can't believe you remember that. He said, oh, yeah. He said, now, from now on, every 10 years, we're going to get together and tell this story.
There you go.
Jim is such a nice person. And again, with all the BS going around him and his rants and stuff, it makes people look at him in a different light. But for me, he was such a nice guy. And, you know, a lot of these wrestlers can be really nice, overly nice to the fans because they understand the fans got them where they're at. Right. Then you have some that I ran into Greg the Hammer Valentine. We were on the elevator. I didn't say if me and my buddy was standing there, and he got on, and I just bumped my buddy. I said, hey, it's Greg Valentine. He looked at me like, oh, great, more wrestling fans. And I'm like, I looked at my buddy like, I didn't say crap to him. Why he, getting mad at me or us? And that turned me off. But I was watching the show, and he was on it, and he was making a comment about fans, and it really didn't hit me that, man, he couldn't go anywhere and just be anybody. He's so recognized, and people are, sometimes you be so excited you don't realize that you're barging into his personal time.
Yeah, the fans do that, and most of the time, most guys I think just work with it because I mean they're fans, man. And here's the thing: it's got to be annoying when it's you. I mean, when you've been Greg Valentine or even say Hulk Hogan or Ric Flair, especially back in the day. I mean, Hulk Hogan couldn't walk out of his house without people. Anywhere he went in public, people's all over him. Same thing with Ric Flair. Probably the same thing with Greg. And here's the thing: it's like meeting celebrities. Some of these celebrities you meet, your opinion grows of them. Some you meet that you think's going to be great, your opinion drops to the floor of them. Fans are kind of the same way. Like you said, most of them just get overzealous. Yeah. And they don't realize when they think cause you're a public figure, you're a public figure. They have the right to just do whatever, say whatever. And I mean, it is what it is. Everybody deals with it different, but I've met guys, man, that I met guys, famous guys that, man, after meeting them, my opinion, Lord Steven Regal, back when the Memphis Championship Wrestling had the developmental deal in 2000, they sent him down here. One of the coolest guys I've ever met in my life. I already loved him as a wrestler, as a fan perspective, but man, after meeting him, the dude's up here with me, all the way to the top. Randy Savage, and I love Savage. Even to this day, I love Savage. But one night at the Coliseum, and I was still just a fan at this point, but he was out signing autographs, man, and he didn't do nothing to me, but he was just an ass to the fans. They're sitting there paying him, hell, I want to say $10, $15 even at the time for autographs and pictures, you know. But he's just rude to him, man. If it had been me, I'd have been. I never spoke a word to him or nothing, but from that point forward, my opinion of Randy Savage, the person, kind of dropped. Now, the wrestler, one of the greatest freaking characters, one of the greatest personas. I mean, there'll never be another Macho Man, never.
Exactly.
Nobody can do that. Nobody can repeat that, no matter who they are. That's just who he was and what he was about, and it worked. But, I mean, all celebrities are like that, I'm assuming. Some raise your opinion, and some, man, once you meet them, you're like, fuck them, man. I don't even want to talk to this motherfucker no more.
Man, what's that old saying? You never want to meet your heroes.
Right.
I was at that same fan fest, and Dusty Rhodes was signing. Oh my God! I'm like, oh, it's Dusty. I get to talk to Dusty. I'm all fired up. I'm the next guy in line. I walk up. First thing, he turned his back on me. And I'm like, okay. And he's standing having a conversation with somebody. Now he sees this big ass line, but he started having a conversation with somebody else. And I guess his manager or the guy who booked him, I didn't know who he was, but he saw the look on my face because I got immediately pissed. He bumped Dusty. And Dusty turned around and he signed whatever I had and kind of half shook my hand. And I thought to myself, you asshole. You're supposed to be the American dream.
Dude, I was sitting there thinking the same thing. Ain't you the American dream, man? You ought to be happy that anybody's up wanting autographs from you and stuff. That's the American dream.
So for a year, I went, oh, he ain't the American dream. He's the American asshole. Then I finally, again, I think, oh man, I'm not in his shoes. Maybe something was personal he had to talk about. Maybe whatever. And just like Greg Hammer Valentine, it's like, now I get it. That old dislike of him, I may have called him in a bad mood, whatever. But thank you, because for everything you did, it helps me stay a wrestling fan, and I give you a pass. As long as you ain't being like really disrespectful or being crazy and try to put your hands on me, we're good. Oh, and I forgot to tell you about the time Tony Atlas threatened to beat me up.
Oh, hell, I got to hear this story now. You gonna get beat
So,
up by Mr. USA?
we in the line, and I'm just standing there, and he looks at me. He's like, "You're a pretty big boy." I said, "Yeah, that's what they tell me." He said, "Oh, you're a smart ass." I tell you what, you help me up and let me go upstairs and get my Geritol. I come down here and whoop your ass. And I'm looking at him like, I look at him like, what? And then I just started laughing. And he started laughing. Then he breaks out, starts singing, "You got a great big booger in your nose." And I'm like, what is wrong with you? But it was so funny. I have an autograph figure of him. He autographed it for me. And just stuff like that just makes the wrestling fan in me be that much bigger and so much thankful for everything that wrestlers do.
Right. Only problem I see is like Dusty. If you're sitting there and you're supposed to be signing autographs and selling pictures or whatever, then no matter what kind of mood you're actually in, if you're in such a bad mood you can't be cordial to the fans, then maybe you don't need to be out there at that time. Maybe that needs to be called off or something. It'd be now. I'm not saying if you meet an asshole fan that comes up and because you do meet those that immediately start kind of being condescending to you and kind of backhanded comments and shit.
Yeah.
Well, handle those appropriately, but everybody in that line that's paying you and you got to realize if these people are waiting in that line and paying you, buying your pictures and waiting to get your autograph, most of these people have probably been a fan of you their whole life. Their whole life, that's the American dream. And they deserve that. I mean, you treat an asshole fan appropriately, but fans in general, especially at an autograph session or a convention or something where that's what you're there to do,
Yeah.
be cordial, be nice whether you want to or not, because that's what they come there for. That's what they're paying for. It's like having a rude waitress or waiter in a restaurant. I'm like, if you didn't want to come to work today, you shouldn't have brought your ass here. You know what I mean? You knew what you was going to be doing.
Yeah, I definitely understand. But like I said, like they say, hopefully the older you get, the more wisdom you get. And my whole wisdom is now that everybody's human. So
Right.
Again, you don't know what they're going through. So again, I try to give passes to different people, but in the same token, yeah, don't take my kindness for weakness.
Right.
But yeah, I can knock on wood. Most of the wrestlers I've ever met have been super nice, very understanding, just cool.
Yeah, most guys are gracious, man. Look, here's the thing, all of us, there's very few wrestlers that get in the business that it wasn't their dream. Most of us, that's all we ever wanted to do or try or be was a wrestler. And be gracious. That's all I can say. Be gracious, and like you said, keep in mind that, man, these fans, the thing about wrestling, though, that's different, if you watch people on TV shows and movies, you kind of hold them up here like you understand they're celebrities, but wrestlers, especially in the old days when you had a lot of territories and local TV wrestling, these people grow up on these wrestlers and see them every day, and they really believe that they know you.
Yes.
I mean, that's the thing. They think they know you just because they've grown up watching you, or you've grown up in front of them on TV. And you got to kind of keep all that into perspective, man. And anytime somebody's paying you for your autograph or a picture, I don't care what kind of mood you're in, be gracious and be happy, because you'd be sad as hell if that line was empty right there and no one was in front of you. That tells you a lot about where you're at, you know?
Yes, sir.
Well, dude, man, we're at 125 in, man. I told you we wouldn't go but an hour, but Like always, do you have that problem on podcasts sometimes, dude? I always plan on cutting them off at an hour, hour and a half. Sometimes, depending on the conversation and who it is or what's going on, I have been on for 3 hours, man, and I'm like, man, I plan every time to kind of stop it at an hour, but it never happens that way. Dude, before you get out of here, promote y'all stuff, man. Promote your podcast. Promote the Wrestling Society Network. Tell people how they can find this, where to go get it. The whole shebang, dude. Promote everything that you got and y'all got coming up, man.
All right. Well, the best place to find us is on Facebook. We have a group and we want people to join. We're over 2,100 members. So, man, come on there. If you are a promoter, if you're a wrestler, if you're a referee, man, promote your stuff on our thing. We charge nothing. We want everybody to get out there and see your stuff. By promoting, you may gain 5 more fans, but 5 turn into 10, 10 to 15, and whatever. So we are on Facebook as the Wrestling Society Network. And our app is on Roku, it's on Fire Stick, it's on Amazon, and it's on Apple TV. And the only thing you got to look up is WSN. I'm telling you, once you get on that, I think you'll be hooked. And again, it is free. Free different wrestling. You cannot beat it. You can binge watch when you want. And we're adding stuff constantly. So, man, enjoy us. We are also on Instagram or X and Wrestling Network Society. So, I mean, I always get it mixed up. I get so excited. I always reverse it. It's the Wrestling Society Network.
There you go. It's like that anniversary, man. You lucky you pulled that one out, because I'd hate for you to be on the couch tonight, dude. Dude, it has been a blast, man. It's been 100% my pleasure, man. I have thoroughly enjoyed talking wrestling with you. Man, we're going to have to hook back up somewhere down the line and just talk nothing but wrestling, just wrestling in general, man.
Man, I would love it. Again, anytime you need me, you want, like maybe you decide you want to do a panel on different wrestling, hit me up. I'll be glad to come.
I will, man. Look, dude, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you giving us your time, man. And like I said, it's been my pleasure, my friend.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Again, thank you for letting me come on to promote this. And, man, I enjoy you.
Anytime, my friend. You and your wife have a great night and have a great anniversary, man.
I appreciate that.
Take it easy.
All righty.
All right, y'all, you heard it right there. That's Professor Bear. Go to the Wrestling Society Network. Go check them out on Facebook, X, all that. Go check out their app, man. It's really cool. Like you said, Roku, Amazon, Apple TV, and I know I'm missing one somewhere. Go check this out. It's a really cool thing. All kinds of different wrestling products, content, from podcasts to matches to companies. Go check them out. You won't be disappointed. Go check out Professor Bear. Check his podcast out. You'll love it, man. It's always good. I've watched a couple of them, and I've enjoyed them. Guys, I appreciate everybody who tuned in, everybody who watched. Look, tomorrow night, 7 p.m., Premier Pro Wrestling's back. We're going to run down the card for this Friday night in Dyer, Tennessee at the Dyer Fire Department. Do not miss it. I want to thank every one of you guys who tuned in, watched, and support our content. Till tomorrow, y'all take it easy.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do, so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move, so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that. Spitting slow, spitting fast, I could roast, I could gas. Think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past. And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you hide behind a fake exterior. Inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior. Get off of me, this ain't no humble brag. I want you to hear words, you can say them back. I want you to feel free from the chains that last, and to believe in what you got, it was built to last, yeah.
Now that I've been put through hell, I never got anyone's help. I had to do it all myself.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a